Hello everybody, this is Havoc, and welcome back to Humankind, a tutorial for absolute beginners. This is episode 5, and as episode 5, this is the last one that is officially sponsored by Amplitude Studios. So thank you Amplitude for sponsoring the first 5 of these. It really helps to have the support of a developer behind a series like this, and you, the community, have been incredibly awesome to be supportive as well. So thank you Amplitude. I look forward to working with you again at any point in the future. In today's episode, I know we are beginning right where we left off in the last episode, but I felt it was pretty important. There are some things that I feel like are still needing to be wrapped up or explained a little bit, or at least maybe just seen and gameplay wise to really comprehend. It includes things like adding some territories, some diplomatic things, maybe even some battles if we can get into it. I do believe we will start unit production as well, so we'll get a brief overview of what units you may want to create or not create, as well as their benefits or different technologies. If doubt we can get into the classical era today, but you never know. So that's what we're going to do today. We may skip forward a little bit. We may get to the classical era by the end of this tutorial video, skipped ahead quite a few turns. So I mentioned that's something that will happen. So if you see it again, don't be alarmed. It is all entirely planned. But before we actually begin, remember that at any point, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those bell notifications. And if you have yet to purchase Humankind or want to at any point you are watching, you have a link in the description below. It is always incredibly supportive to purchase from my Nexus store, as it benefits the channel directly, but it is never ever required. Lastly, it's something I keep forgetting to say, but my AI persona avatar is up for grabs if you want to play against me. That link will also be in the description and possibly even in the pinned comments. The way you can play against me, be sure to let me know what you think of me, how difficult I am, because I did give myself some rather large buffs. So that way it'd be a little difficult to beat me in a game. Let me know how it goes. But let's get back to the actual game that we are playing right in front of us. There's a few things to note real quick, is that we have 2 of the 7 era stars we need. And one of the things we haven't really seen is this menu over here, at least not something I pointed out. This basically lets you know, hey, you are close to an era star. We need to build 1 more district to get the next one there. We need 2 more units or population in order to get this. And we also need to obtain 7 technologies. We are currently at 6, which means in the next turn, we will gain an era star by researching the wheel. Remember that the wheel allows us roads between our cities and our outposts, which reduces the movement range penalty from things like rivers, forests, other terrains that are inhibiting. It also gives us our emblematic unit, our Zhanqi. Another thing we are going to do is I am going to go to Founding Myths. We are going to enact natural right, because as I mentioned, I really think that pushing influence is one of the best ways to win the game and to make sure that you stay ahead. It's only going to cost 16 to enact, but that plus 5 means we'll make it back in 3 turns.
Keep it simple. We've been here. It's our place.
And so if we look at our society spread, you can see we are quickly taking over our territories, as it should be. We are pushing much more heavier than they are, and we are even starting to influence their territory, which again means that if I convert this and it becomes part of our society, we will then get a repressing our people, or oppressing our people, actually, saying, hey, give us this region. Whether they do it or not, no telling, but odds are they aren't, because I do believe this is actually their capital region, although I do see that it is a territory indeed. If we were to do that, we'd be able to get a couple of nice marbles. Not too shabby. Okay, our unit was able to spawn a warrior right at the very end of the last episode, and we were also able to start influencing the independent people. We're not done with our turn yet, because as you can see, we have an offer.
You should listen to this. A most intriguing offer.
So the Hairpins want to enact a non-aggression pact, which essentially means, as I've explained, that we won't attack them, they won't attack me in any situation, whether we're in neutral territory or not, or whether we are in each other's. It's not something I'm too terribly keen upon, because we did just rip a demand from them. But you know what? If it means that I can counter propose and make, you know, 30 bucks, we'll do it.
There is
Okay,
much to admire here.
cool.
Accepted.
They signed your treaty.
Well,
There we go. Our ideological proximity is high. We proposed the treaty to them, but it is deteriorating rapidly. So we will have to do things in the future, and we can do things like purchase this sort of stuff. So they currently have 2 salts available, which gives us 5 food per salt, or for stability per salt. The incense gives us 5 money. I would be more inclined to buy incense if we wanted to. We can see that it would cost a pretty penny. We're not going to do so just yet because I don't think it would be ultra beneficial for us. What we are still going to try to do today is see if we can't take this territory away from the Hairpins and also start exploring down here to see if there's anything else for us, because really want to make sure we are taking advantage of everything. Down here, I'm going to say the best spots would either be maybe right here to take advantage of all of the industry, and we'd also be able to get our emblematic building right here. Or we could go right here and take advantage of a little bit of food. It's not a ton of food. It would also mean that, oh, it may not be a bad idea to explore either option to build an outpost here or there. The only thing that sucks when building against territories like this is that you do limit your expansion. But with all of this here, I think it would kind of outweigh the negatives in this situation. All right, there's not much else to do. Let's hit the end turn. Population has grown in Mazalai. Curiosity has been collected. The wheel has been researched, and it's unlocked us. Very cool. We can see we're already moving up as well. We already have the aesthete stars coming up, which is our primary objective there. And so at 43 a turn, we're actually going to reach it in 4 turns. Yeah, no, I guess 5 turns. My math is off. It's okay. 5 turns and we'll get that aesthete star, which is pretty intense. A rate of 43 influence this early in the game is relatively beneficial for us. All right, these guys are on autopilot, so we're going to come down here. And if I go over to this way, I can see over to this way. If I go over here, I can see that we would get 12 industry and 7 food, which is pretty impressive. We are exploiting everything around us to the best of our abilities. We went over here, we would get 13, which isn't that great, but we'd also only get 2. So I think if we do build something, we'll have to be here, and we will have to creep along and exploit the tiles around us in order to get to this. It's a decent strategy, or we could simply just build the emblematic building here and not have to worry about some stability issues building so many to get just an extra 5. We'll have to see how that rolls about. We're going to move these guys down to here. We have an event over here, a game of prophecy. The Empire thriving, a new game hailing from a foreign land beguiles the population. But game is reckoned to be a form of divination. So if we silence, it will cost us 80 gold. If we get into the negative, I do believe our stability drops, which is not a good thing, but we would get out of it within a turn. If we did overlook, it pushes us towards order, which isn't, or the order axis towards liberty, excuse me. But we do get defiant. We can take a hit, and it would move us in a direction that we wouldn't mind going. Or we can do heed, which leads us towards tradition and faith increase, but we'd lose 2 science. We're going to go with overlook. We don't make a big deal out of it, it won't matter. We have researched the last of our queue, and what I want to see is if we have, or if anyone has researched writing, because if they have, then they get a fame bonus. But if they haven't, then we are going to go for it. Let's see what has been claimed, what hasn't. Discover writing, verba volant scripta manet. Discover writing. So we are going to see if we can't obtain that first. Get us a little bit of extra fame. And then we're definitely going to have to get into sailing and fishing. Fishing will give us a harbor. That's what we need. And as I mentioned, we can't get disembarked units until trade expeditions into the next era. So we're going to go with writing, fishing to build a harbor, masonry, so we can start using forced labor to force build stuff based on population, And then we'll get to organized correction. We are going to go organized warfare because we can use reinforcements. Currently, before you research organized warfare, you can only attack one army at a time. You cannot bring in your own armies. They cannot reinforce with more armies. Using reinforcements obviously means that we can bring in multiple armies and they will come into the battle all on themselves. Also gives us a barracks, which reduces the industry cost, and then also gives us a battering ram, which is good to take down walls. Then we'll get masonry, and then we'll get sailing. I think it's most important. With nothing really left to do, oh, there is something we can do. We can fight a battle. Now, this is a battle between humans, not a battle between animals, unless you consider humans animals. Anyways, we are going to do it. It is against the Mycenaeans, not the Harapins, so we don't have that non-aggression pact. Now, they may not like it, but we're going to do it anyways.
Time to see what happens when foreign cultures get together and decide to murder each other.
There we go. All right, so you can see overall our side is stronger. We have a warrior and 2 scouts. He only has a single scout. Now, mind you, they have a 2 veterancy, so they actually are significantly, well, +2 combat strength more powerful than my regular scouts, but that's still a pretty good advantage over. We can also see that I have changed my battle layout to where it doesn't show all those dark colors. I'm still not sold on it completely, but I do like it a little more. You can still see the boundaries, you can still see where we can deploy, and you can see where the enemy deployed. This is the same exact setup as when we were fighting animals, with a noticeable exception. And that is this little thing right here. This is the hostile flag. There are 2 ways to win right now. We can either kill everyone, in which case we'd win automatically, or we can take the flag, hold it for I do believe 1 to 2 rounds, maybe less. I'm still not sold, or at least fully knowledgeable on the conditions in which we capture it. And if we do capture this flag, the battle will be over and anyone who survives on both sides will remain alive. So let's go ahead and hit the manual battle. Good, it gives us our warrior first. Now, one thing you'll notice is that we only have 1 tile in which we could have deployed troops because that's just the way that it was. This is not a smart move for me as the offender to try and get out because I only have 1 unit to move into the battlefield. Now I can bring those in, I can bring in reinforcements, but I'd have to move this guy outside of the spawn point. One thing that's important to remember with battles is that unlike exploring the map, however far you move on your turn with a unit is however far that they go. There is no clicking here, okay, it's open, I'm gonna click here, okay, it's cool, let me click here. If I were to click here, that's as far as I could move. It's a bit unfortunate, but that's just how the way battle goes. And the reason for that is a zone of, oh, there we go, is a zone of control. We cannot move past a unit because a unit kind of sucks in our zone of control. So you can see all of those tiles around him. If someone moves past, it's going to do that. Now, we can't get to that flag, unfortunately. But what we can do is we can bring in reinforcements. So I like to go over here to the reinforcement tab and choose who I want to bring in. You bring in by deploying the unit right there. Now, a unit can only zone of control 1 other unit. So I'm going to be able to bypass this guy. But you'll also notice that I would not have been able to move this way because he zones and controls within a single tile. That makes sense? I hope that makes sense. So essentially we could surround him all together. And we can bring in the last reinforcements just for kicks and giggles, although we couldn't move them into a region. We'll just move him over here. All right, so right now, if we wanted to, we have a significant advantage over. But what I'm gonna, oh, I didn't actually mean to click that. There we go. It still did a little bit of damage to him. But what we are going to do is we are going to end the round. If we end a round for any unit that has not attacked, then they get a defensive bonus. And I doubt they're going to do anything against us. They are not. Okay. We are going to camp here and see what we can't do. Let's go ahead and hit him again. Never mind. Because I do kind of want this guy out of the territory. Yeah. So what we could do is we could camp on the flag and end the battle that way. But I really don't want this guy exploring and potentially taking any territories. So now that he has weakened a little bit because he is damaged enough, we now have a 3 combat strength over him, and that's going to be pretty good. I like it. Will he attack me? That's the question. Nope. Sometimes we have to wait for the lag to catch up. Oh, no, we don't. We have a unit over here that hasn't moved. In the round. All right, so they are going to go bye-bye. We overwhelmed them with our forces. There was no way to get a flank, so we didn't do that. But that's just a quick little battle for you, for the humans. As battle expand, as you get more units, we'll probably get into some pretty big battles just so you can see what it looks like. But another thing we accomplished is our first tier towards our militarist star. We need to destroy a total of 6 military units. Animals no longer count as units in this regard because we're more advanced to that. They're not as huge of a threat. So we now have to kill other human things like that. All right, nothing else to do. So we are going to end the turn. We have a population gain over there. We gained an agrarian star. We've gained 2 stars in this episode alone. And we're still getting closer and closer. We have access, our access to marble was purchased by the Mycenaeans. One thing we'll also notice here.
A pleasure to see you again.
We attacked him. So he now can make a demand, hey, you attacked me. My unit died. Well, it wouldn't have mattered. We just attacked him in general, and he wants 200 gold. Now, he hasn't pushed it. This is just a grievance. This is something he could push if he wanted to, and it is affecting our opinion, his opinion of us. But he hasn't demanded it yet. He has 10 turns to demand it, or else that goes away. Their grievance goes away. They forget about it. So we'll see if he pushes it, but I seriously doubt he will. We also have another civic unlock. The struggle for dominion goes over leadership. And we have 2 routes we can go here. We can go a small council, which boosts us towards a liberty function, which influence gain per emblematic district. Pretty darn good. Or we can get stability on the capital. This is very good for single city playthroughs, where you can build as much stability as possible, but it does move us drastically towards the autarch and the order, or the authority, excuse me. We're not going to worry about it because I am wanting to concentrate on building outposts to nab some of these last little bits before it's too late. Now we need to see what is up ahead here. So far, nothing crazy. All right, so we can't see past there, but I imagine it's not going to be a terrible lot. There's the Harapin's capital as well. So what we can basically get a grasp here is if we wanted to make this a 2-city region, we could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 5-territory city of Fengao, and Haojing could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 territory city as well. I think that's the route we'll go. 2 cities on a single continent like this is more than enough, and it would get our production high enough, as well as a stability rating from all the things that we can exploit to really benefit from a 2-city setup. Too many cities is sometimes not as good as a couple of really, really strong cities, and we really still need to develop our industry and all those things everywhere else. But we can see we're building an artisan's quarter. You know what we are going to do, actually? We are going to purchase this maker's quarter, therefore giving us a builder star. And then we are going to push our obelisk of the gods on our border territory. We can see we are starting to take over religiously as well. Now, Zhao polytheism, we need to change to beginnerism. I don't know I ever did that. That sounds like a smart idea. Beginnerism is going to be fantastic. Now we're building the Confucian quarter, but we can go ahead and build an obelisk of the gods in a place where we can't take advantage of anything. This is just a prairie, which apparently is not enough to warrant it to have food. So it'd be a good place because we're not using up anything. And we are actually going to do that and then do the obelisk of the gods after it. So that way we can start pushing our religion even faster and faster. kind of take over the whole continent and say, hey, look, this is mine. Nothing else to do right now. Resources have been sold. The hairpins are doing lots of good things for us. So I really, really do appreciate it. And we need to continue on our way to capture these territories. Now, if we build and capture this territory, if we build an outpost over here or a city, we get the benefits of that natural wonder. So we get 5 influence, 10 stability, and 10 money on the city or the outpost. So we really need to push that. And you know what? I think we are going to forego some good food output here or some good industry output. If we were to go right like this, we could do all of the things right here and still build outwards, right? That's kind of what I'm thinking. Take advantage of the natural wonder. That's not a bad build. Or we could look over here, maybe take advantage of this spot, which has a little more room for expansion. All those +2s would give us a good amount of food. Let's do this way. And then we'll send our army. Again, I'm not going to be able to exploit all of these regions or all of these forests. So we will be able to cut those down. It's very interesting that it's telling me that I can't build. Maybe I have to actually build an outpost first. We'll have to take a look at that because it may be bugged, and that would be extremely unfair. All right, so we have mountains here. There's nowhere else that we can go. So what should we do? What we should do is an idea that I have. Actually, we'll go up to here because we will probably integrate this place. Should we do it now? Or should we do this place? Let's integrate Electra because they actually don't have anything to integrate there. And then I'm going to do something that can be a little bit risky. So when you find yourself not needing to worry about units anymore, in this case, we really don't need our scouts. We've explored the entire continent that we can. We don't have open borders with the hairpins. There really is no benefit to keeping these guys. There just isn't. There is no purpose for them. Since we have no purpose for them, if you disband a unit inside of a city territory, you actually put that pop right back in its pocket. Which means if we wanted to, we could disband both of these scouts and we would get 7 population in Fengao, which has the potential to boost any of these other resources, which is what we're going to do. We're not going to do the warrior. The warrior is still important enough. But if we go here, disband units, here we go. It'll go into our city or an outpost. You don't really want to boost an outpost like that. But there we go. Now it does, of course, reduce our food export because we added 2 more people. But what it also does is it goes directly into industry thanks to our expert policy. Therefore, boosting our industry means our Confucian school goes a little bit faster. Then we can build our obelisk of the gods, and then we can start pushing some of our farmers market stuff or farmers district stuff. This is a little bit of a meta min-maxer move, but it is something to consider that when you have units you don't know a purpose for, put them back into a city that could use the boost. Now you also notice that our stability is dropping dramatically. We don't have the base that our capital city does. And the number of attached territories is causing -40, the stability from the Maker's Quarter we made. But that obelisk of the gods is going to give us 20 stability and 2 stability on a district. So we will actually get, I think, something along the lines of 24 stability total. Will boost us back up. It's not fantastic, but that's what this public fountain is also for. We could then get 15 stability after we build that. So we're going to queue quite a few things in Fengao, much to our benefit. All right, lastly, we can go here. We got 15 science and 10 research, which I do believe is enough to exploit this region. Now I mentioned we want to go here. 7 and 12 is fantastic, and it gives us room to expand to again put our emblematic building over there. And I think it would be a great way to go about it. All right. Trade route blocked. Violence has temporarily halted the selling of marble and of salt to the Hairpins. Let's take a look.
What do you want now?
Here we go. So they immediately put their grievance into a demand. They demand that we cede Canopus because we claimed a territory on their border. We are not going to deal with it. Basically, they can continue pushing it, which would give them a bit of war support. You can see it gives a lot of war support. And they are militarists. And this is actually the Mycenaeans. So it does mean that they have the ability to declare war on us right now or in the next turn if they wanted to. Which also means we're going to have to ramp up production. And we're going to have to do it over here. All right, so this is where we're going to have to get into things a little bit quicker than I had anticipated, which is perfect. It's perfect to react to scenarios like this as they happen in real life. Or real life as in the game itself. All right, we have a few things that just happened now. The Hairpins have gained renown as a trader. They have broken a treaty, maybe not necessarily against us, but you can see it's not going too well. It's improving a little bit, but it's not going fantastic. A trade route has been destroyed. Oh, wow. There we go. The Hairpins have declared war on the Mycenaeans. That is their trader. So they had, holy criminy. Okay. So the Hairpins have an army, 2 warriors, and their units of the runners who are just upgraded scouts. Upgraded in all the best ways, mind. So they broke a treaty and declared war on the Mycenaeans who are over here. We really are going to have to step up the ball game. So we're going to have to forego this, unfortunately. Yeah, 7 turns is just a little too much. We actually have a way that we can do this, and I'm about to show you. But as for what units we want to do, I am going to go over to Malazai. I'm going to drop 24 influence to grab my copper resource. I now have a copper resource, which is the only thing that was limiting me to building these Zhongqi. All right, bonus combat strength when stability is high. Our stability is not fantastic, but it would still be better than nothing. It is the strongest unit we have available to us. So we are going to push it as much as we can. Now you can see here that this takes 3 turns and 1 pop. It also has an upkeep of 3, so we can't build a ton of these. We can build 2, and then I think we're going to go ahead and build 2 archers. Archers are a ranged combat unit. It receives penalties when people get in close combat, but the best part about an archer is that it doesn't need a clear line of sight, which means it can push over. It doesn't have to have. It can. Excuse me. Goodness gracious. It can have units in the way and still reach its target. So this is going to give us a strong heavy cav option. This will give us some ranged options so we can prepare. Now this will take away 4 population, which means we'd be back down to 3 out of 17, but that's okay. Now what we have to do here is we are actually going to boost this shared project for Fangao. Now I mentioned shared projects such as Obelisks of the Gods and Cultural Wonders can be shared across the board. And if we were to go here, we could see now it would only take 9 turns. If we were to push this up with it, it was 7 turns, now it's 4. We can't afford to wait. So we will have another city, basically build it for Fangao while we are working on this stuff over here. We will work on getting this Artisan's Quarter real quick, and then we'll push the Obelisk of the Gods. So we have to prepare for war because I don't know how these guys are going to react. I'm not going to lie. And in fact, we could replenish the units that are going to be dissolved essentially by simply bringing in our scouts. It's a little bit of a risque time, I'm not going to lie. And we actually don't have enough to build right here, but we will go ahead and go to the next turn so we can. But we've also gained our first tenet. Now, we lost one. It was already triggered at 25, so now it's not. And we have to figure out what we want to do. 5 money on a luxury resource deposit. We have quite a few luxury resources to expand on. That would be a pretty good one. 2 stability on a river is fantastic. 1 influence on a mountain. Now that would be, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 once it's built. 6, 7, 8, 9, or no, 8, 9 once it's built, mind you. 8, 9, possibly 10 or 11. It's doubtful we'll get there. So that would be an extra 10 plus influence. Plus, if we exploited any more, it would give a benefit there. That's not half bad. Smiting unbelievers is an unbeliever is a poison. We get 25 experience on creating a unit on all cities, -1 unit upkeep on the unit, and 1 maximum number of holy sites. Most of these allow you to build an extra number of holy sites, so that's good to know. Or we could do something like Tithe the Wealthy, which gives us increased war support on winning a battle and increased war support when the opponent retreats. But I don't know that that's necessarily necessary. All right, I think I made my decision. I think we are going to go with Purge Idleness. And the main reason for that is that we have a lot of coastal waters. In pretty much every single one of our territories, we are surrounded by lots of coastal waters. Now, that means we get plus 1 food per coastal water. And remember that if we were to build a harbor right here, that means 5 food. We could build a harbor right here, 5 food, a harbor right here, 4 food, and then harbors all over the place where we could benefit a whole bunch from building that. So that's a lot of food. It's a lot of food. And I think that would really, really help us. It also means that we may go something like the Carthaginians in the next time, if we were to do something. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I think that was a smart move. It's not going to benefit us right at this moment, but it will continue to work as we go along. And we can see we've already converted the Mycenaean culture. We are working on converting the religions of the Harapins because they just can't do anything with us right now. All right, a new tenet for beginnerism. Yes, indeed. And all of our armies are moving to their final allotments. And we can officially end the turn.
Debate and discussion are not the pastimes of the idle, but the actions of thinkers and movers who will touch every aspect of civilization.
Indeed. So we discovered writing, which gives us laws to reduce the cost of canceling or enacting a civic. We unlocked a new quarter, a market quarter, and that's going to be important if we want to generate wealth. We'll get into that in a later episode. A food market gives +1 money on a market quarter per adjacent market quarter and +2 money on a market quarter. So what you're going to have to do based on the thing like a food market is that market quarters will be an investment that won't pay off very quickly, but you have to build synergies around them in order to make them worthwhile. So that's something we'll have to consider. And then the House of Scribes is a constructible where we get +1 science per researcher and then 2 research slots per.
Things that one generation learned can be passed to the next via something more reliable than campfire stories.
We have discovered writing first, which gives us 50 fame points. It's a cheeky little grab. And then we also got our first aesthete tier, which is fantastic. Now you can see we need 3 more buildings, 2 more science, a decent ways more money, a few more expansionist territories to integrate, 10 more agrarian, etc. to get to our final goal. It also means that we are far above the competition, far above them, but we've also gained a grievance. Goodness gracious. Okay, so the Harapins have their affinity traits under the growth in that they can steal a population from one of my territories and integrate it into their own. That is a problem.
And make it quick.
They lured a population using their agrarian affinity. We're gonna have to chill out for a little bit. I don't want to push it until I know that I can take them on with an army. So we're not going to do anything about that. I will, though. Yes, we will put both of these guys into population here, which slightly reduces it, but it's going to be 16 turns. By that time, we will have built most of our armies, and the food will be flowing once again. I'm not too concerned about that. As for everything else, we need to build our final territory. This is saying 14 and 4. But would it really be more advantageous? It actually probably would, because we'd be able to exploit this with some farmers' orders. So well done. And then, of course, we do get that +10 from the wonders. Probably once the outpost actually builds, which will be in 4 turns. Absolutely. Not much else we can do on this front. We have a couple of bears there. We are going to camp out over here. We need to put some warriors and some units inside of here to kind of boost our stability. That is a valid tactic, or at least it was before the release version. Hopefully it remains so. We are going to push our last territory. This is the last thing we can conquer outside of Awasukani that our land can hold. I am thinking this is going to be the best spot. Fishing has been researched, which gives us a harbor. A harbor gives 3 money per adjacent market quarter. So again, the idea of building some synergies. So if we can find a place where we can build a market and build market quarters around them, the harbor will benefit the market quarters will benefit other market quarters, and we've got some good money synergies going on. And then, of course, a fishery gives 3 food on a harbor on top of everything else. So in theory, we can build a harbor, and we should see the benefits. There we go. Okay, this is a bit bonkers. Oh my goodness gracious. But we can see if we build this harbor, we get 27 from exploitation. 27 food is a lot of food to exploit. And in the future, when we build something like the Cawthon, we can then build that alongside a harbor. So you can see how kind of out of craziness it can get when we start building these exploitation synergies. What do we have here? We have our first Zhengqi. And we can only build 4 until 4 units in a single army. So we are going to camp here for the time being, because I don't actually think I can exploit. Finally, so we do have to have a city built and complete. I thought I actually cut this out of the last episode because it was showing it wasn't doing anything, and I was very, very upset about it. 4 turns and we'll have that woodland exploited, which we should build some more armies just for. We're gonna hang out and station because we want those guys to get rolling. Let's actually do this, build them a little bit quicker, and we'll be on our, again, a population gain in Haojing. Lopez has converted to the new religion. We are pushing our religion quite massively. Not difficult for us at all. It is actually swimmingly well. And there we go. We can see 14 food is going to be much more beneficial, in my opinion, than pushing anything. We do have an event, the first calendar. Because we have evented the calendar, now that we have 2 major cities as well, it's what has triggered the calendar. We will obviously go towards solar, because I am pushing that science more than anything else I've really pushed in the game thus far. We are going to go through and finish, but not before we can claim our first wonder. I was going to jump ahead, but for one, we are going to claim our first wonder. And I want to roll through this so you can figure out what you want to do yourself. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon gives us stability and stability on all districts that we have exploited, 100 fame, and then of course again does the wondrous effects of any luxury deposit, which is great. That's a huge boost. But that's about it. The Pyramids of Giza gives us 20 stability, 200 district, because that's our cultural thing. Minus 25% on a district industry cost. That means that if it costs 100 industry to build a district, it only takes 75 now, which is the difference between 2 turns and 3 turns if you're making 40 industry a turn, which is what we're doing right now. The Temple of Artemis has, I think, the most things attached to it, in that it gives you faith because it's considered a holy site, but it doesn't count towards our cap. Gives us a huge boost to stability. Regeneration on a unit inside of our own territory, which is fantastic. And then our units ignore movement penalties from forests. Now, we don't have a terrible amount of forests, and I honestly don't see from peeking around here that forests are a big deal. So that isn't beneficial for us in this run, but it certainly could do wonders for you. Next up, we have Stonehenge, which is 10 food per co-religious estates, 5 stability per co-religion estates, 20 faith, 40 stability. On the capital, 5% food of empires following the same religion. This gives you the biggest faith push, but I don't really feel like we need it the most because we're already doing so well. So I'm actually going to steal or claim Pyramid of Giza. That means no one else can take it. It also sucks up all of our stuff, but you can see here we can then build it. It has to be next to a river. There are a couple of caveats. And so taking advantage of a spot that you are not exploiting is going to be beneficial. So we can build it in the desert, or we can build it along the coasts. Anywhere in our territory. I think we're just gonna put it right here, kind of nestled in a valley next to a river. That's gonna be good. Now they're gonna push everything else in front of it. We're not gonna do that, but we will push the wonder. All right, so what we are going to do by the next episode, I will probably have claimed more of these territories. If we go to war in my off time, we will definitely start an episode there. But outside of that, there's nothing that I'm really pushing outside of potentially doing an era star change into the next era that I really feel would be necessary. So that will be the end of this episode. I hope you start grasping an idea of how much everything is progressing. This is starting to really steamroll, and we're only 48 turns in. So guys, I appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed it at any time, be sure to give the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on bell notifications. You can also purchase this via my Nexus Game Store account to support the channel. But also, this is the last video of the sponsored series from Amplitude Studios. So again, a huge shout out to them for sponsoring these first 5. We will continue on, do not worry. But I will continue this until I feel it is been informative enough for you guys. Thank you again for watching, guys. This is Havoc. I'll see you in the next one.